Welcome back to Monday Night Reading. Our season has begun. We usually take a summer hiatus, and now we're back, and we have people lined up. Get this, y'all. We have people lined up through June. So we have a great season. It's all booked up with authors who were in top 3 book workshop and created something glorious. And I am so excited because it's Carole Mahoney's Monday Night Reading for Buyer First. Grow your business with collaborative selling. Who has a copy? Hold it up if you have a copy. Oh, look at all that. Look. Yay. So, Carole, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to have Laura introduce you in a moment. Let's see, do I see? Oh, there she is. Laura's getting lost in my Brady Bunch. But I want to just give those of you who are new to Monday Night Reading just a quick rundown. Monday Night Reading was my little brainchild because in the fiction world, authors get a chance to do readings of their work. And in the nonfiction world, that almost never happens, to the point where we've had authors who are New York Times bestselling authors come and read, and they've never once been asked to do this. So we decided, hey, that's silly. Nonfiction authors write great stories and great content, and let's hear from them in that same capacity. It's named after Monday Night Readings because back in the day when I was a playwright, that's when we used to have readings at the Playwright Center. So I just borrowed from that. Anyway, I'm delighted to have Carole Mahoney with us. And Laura, you want to go ahead and introduce Carole?
I do. Now, Carole, I realized that my Not About Me, you couldn't see it, so I just have my t-shirt draped, my Not About Me.
Love it.
So everyone, I'm pleased to introduce you, if you're not familiar, with the fantastic Carole Mahoney. Carole's a sales coach for the Entrepreneurial MBA program at Harvard Business School, where she's been called the sales therapist. She's been named a top sales influencer by LinkedIn, a top sales coach by Ambition, and a sales leader to watch by Sales Hacker. She is the president of the Boston chapter of the American Association of Inside Sales Professionals. I wonder what her expertise is. As the founder of consulting agency Unbound Growth, Mahoney draws on cutting-edge science, statistics, and data from 2.2 million sales professionals to inform her sales coaching work with clients. She holds a BA in marketing and business management from Franklin Pierce University. She lives in Maine and often can be found sitting on a lounge chair in front of her What She Shed. And I will add into the chat ways that you can connect with her. AJ?
Awesome. Yes. And we hope if you don't have a copy of Buyer First that you will pick one up today if it fits your budget. If you don't need it, which I'm going to say I bet you do, because if you're anything like me and selling gives you the willies, then you 100% need this book, but you probably know someone who needs it if it's not you. So I definitely think, pick one up for you, pick one up for a friend. That's what we want to do. And then if you do have a copy, could you please do Carole a really big solid and leave a review? Leave an honest review on Amazon.com. This is author gold. So this is probably the best thing you could do for her. All right, Carole. So did you think this day would ever come that you would be at Monday Night Reading with your own book?
I mean, I did think that it would come. I just didn't know when. And I just knew that it would come one way or another. I was going to make it happen. I just didn't have a clear idea of when or what the heck I was going to say. So.
Yeah, well, I'm so thrilled for you. So I want to ask you about what we always talk about in workshop, which is your book's fundamentals. Who did you write this book for?
So this book was written for small business owners and entrepreneurs who have startups that have to sell, whether it's for VC, their first customers, their beta customers, their next upsell customers, as well as salespeople in company who are either new to a role or have hit a wall, or maybe they're working remotely. And they've tried everything, every tip, every trick, the alphabet soup of sales processes that are out there. And they're frustrated because they don't know why it doesn't seem to work for them the way it works for everyone else in all of the other books and all of the other podcasts. And the thing that they don't realize is that it's actually the way they think about sales. It's their mindset towards it that is actually getting in the way of doing the things that they probably know they should do and maybe even can do, but don't do it in those moments that matter. So my hope for this book was that by the end of it, they will know exactly what it is that they need to do to change the mindset, like identify what is the hidden thing getting in your way. How do you actually change it? But then how do you also engage with your buyers in a way that they find valuable so that by the end of the book, they've found their next customer? That's, I know, a high dream for it, but that's my hope.
Yeah. So put in your other fundamentals without me even asking about core message and promise. And I love that. I love that. So I'm going to we've got a few excerpts from you today, and I'm going to go ahead and get you started. You just set up the first one for us, and then we will listen. But before we do that, everybody, I just want to share, if you've not been to Monday night before, one thing we always make sure is we don't give any negative criticism. Why would you do that? No need to do that. It's a celebration tonight, but we love the positive. And one way that we do that is we share what resonates with us in the chat, a line that we like. So we encourage you to join in, and then we give the chat to Carole so that she can look at that later. And it's a really nice thing to do. So we hope you'll join in. Carole, set us up for this excerpt.
So this very first one is actually the introduction to the book. And I chose this one. It was actually supposed to be chapter 1. I'm just getting it in front of my screen here. But I chose this one because I think it really speaks to like who this book is for and what I'm hoping for at the end of it. And of course, it talks about my wonderful husband, Steve, too. So I chose it for that reason.
Yeah, we love a Steve story.
So does Steve. Yeah,
Awesome.
so this is basically the introduction. And then I've chosen a couple of other excerpts after that.
Okay, so when you're done with this one, we'll have a little chat and then we'll do another one. So here you go, Carole.
All right. I'm sorry, ma'am, but it says your card has been declined. The heat rose in my face. I looked at the items in the cart, all bagged up and ready to go, and then at the line of people behind me, and I stopped breathing. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Going into business for myself, it was supposed to mean freedom, not this. That night, as I was lying in bed next to my husband, the scene in the grocery store played over and over in my head as I stared at the ceiling. I needed to sleep so that I could get up early for my networking meeting the next day. I had to be on my game. I had to get some clients in, so Steve rolled over and whispered, "You need to shut your brain off. I can hear it from over here." The floodgates opened. How am I going to buy presents for the kids? I cried through mucus-filled hiccups. What mother can't buy groceries and Christmas presents for her kids? I can buy presents for the boys. Stop worrying about it. They're my stepsons now, and everyone has ups and downs, right? Yeah, but it's been 6 months since I brought any money in. How did I get here? Maybe everyone is right. I'm not cut out for this, and I should just go find a job. Weeks later, I found myself staring at the blinking cursor on my Word document. I had to get this blog post finished. I hadn't published anything in months. No wonder I didn't have any clients in. But what could I write about that wouldn't make me feel like a complete fraud in that moment? How could I tell people how to get more business when I couldn't do it for myself? Maybe Steve is right. This is just a downtime. Plenty of business owners work a job and do the thing on their own on the side. The economy's turning around, more people are hiring, and I must provide for my family. This crazy idea that I can be my own boss and design my life the way I wanted will have to wait. After several weeks of searches, applications, and interviews, my sister Heidi introduced me to her boss, who was looking for a content marketing director. Because Jack knew my sister, he was very candid with me and shared that the role was between me and one other person who happened to be a man I knew. Let's call him Frank. I don't know who to choose, he told me. If you were me, what would you do? What's the most important aspect of this role for you right now, I asked. We do a lot of sporting events management and marketing. This person would need to be comfortable working with the administrative staff of several event venues and going to all the games. I sighed. I guess I could do that, if I have to. Well, as much as I would love to take the job, I know that Frank has done all of that before and loves it, whereas I have not. If I were you, I would hire him. Wow, he said. I didn't expect that answer. I know, I must be crazy, I replied. Here I am turning down a comfortable job that's local. But I believe Frank is a better fit for what you need, and I wouldn't want to put you, Heidi, or me in a position where we regretted the decision. I can find another opportunity that's a better fit. Please let me know how I can help, Jack said. I appreciate your honesty in helping me figure this out. You made this decision a lot easier. I'm going to ask around and see who might need your services. That was a surprise. No one had offered to do that before. If only every interview or sales conversation went that way. What was different about this conversation from every other interview or conversation with a potential client? It took me some time to realize I wasn't trying to sell him on what I wanted and needed. Instead, I had put his needs ahead of my own. When I shared this thought with Steve, he said, maybe you need to stop trying to sell people in order to get more clients. Sell without selling? How do you sell people without selling them? The answer to that question took me several more years to understand. I had to start all over again in my business before I started to see that selling isn't something we do to others, it's something we do with them. When we make selling all about us, what we do and what we need, sales becomes something we do to other people to get what we want. When we make selling about others' wants and needs, when we actively adopt a buyer-first mindset, then sales becomes something we do with them. Not only will you see better sales and business results when you adopt a buyer-first mindset, you will become a better human too. When you focus your intentions to not be about you, you can free yourself from the fear of rejection and the need for others' approval and become more fully present in the here and now. When I went through this process for myself and then with my clients, it changed us. You as well must be ready, willing, and able to change to sell successfully with your buyers. This is the book I wish I had nearly 20 years ago when I first started my business. While I am neither a therapist nor an academic scientist, I am intensely curious. Why do people do what they do? Why don't people do the things they know they should? How is it that some can overcome impossible odds while others who have every opportunity throw it away? This book is based on my own experience and on the experiences and results of my coaching clients. It includes decades of psychological research on how we change our mindsets and behaviors, coupled with data from over 2 million sales professionals on what it takes to be successful in sales without being, as Daniel Pink writes in To Sell is Human, pushy, slimy, or sleazy. This book is the result of a scientific process that started with what I have observed in myself and my clients and asking the questions to understand why things are that way. But I'm not a scientist, nor do you need to be one to understand and apply these principles. When you read this book and do the exercises, no matter how silly they may seem to you, you will know how to change your mindset towards sales so that you can be more collaborative with your buyers, which is what they need in order to buy from you. Sales is not something you do to other people. It is something you do with them. Embrace that in the mindset, and you might find that your next favorite client by the time you finish the last chapter. You may even find that your personal relationships have shifted. Good luck. Or not. I hope that your situation is not as desperate as mine was back in 2008, 6 months after I started my business in the middle of the Great Recession. Maybe you believe that rejecting the corporate world is about gaining the freedom to control your destiny, a risk you thought worth taking because there was no such thing as job security anymore. Maybe you believed, as I once did, that what you are offering is such a no-brainer that it would sell itself to your prospects. Or maybe like many of my coaching clients who stumbled or chose to go into sales, you thought that this life would mean control over your income because you had the power to directly impact your outcomes. Sure, you knew it wouldn't be easy, but did you know how much it would mess with your head? How it would leave your heart racing when the only thing you want to do is sleep? How it would put stress on your family and loved ones as they watch you struggle or try to stay out of your way? Have you been wondering if you're cursed with bad luck? I can tell you about luck. I grew up in a superstitious Irish family. On a recent Friday the 13th, after I did morning yoga on the deck in our backyard, I found myself reflecting on luck. With the eagles flying overhead and the air alive with the songbirds of spring, I thought about my client's typical reaction to my outdoor office background, in the middle of the woods, overlooking a small lake in Maine. How lucky I must be. I laughed and thought about all I had gone through to get here. Luck had next to nothing to do with it. If I was lucky on purpose. After I had been fired in the middle of a recession, starting a business seemed to be my only option. But with no savings, few contacts, 2 kids, and 2 mortgages, the odds were stacked against me. Luck was not on my side. Then our tenants stopped paying their rent because, like me, they had been laid off. Then the banks never responded to the short sale they initially agreed to, and then foreclosure. To rebound from all of that, I had to face up to some things, and fast. My own mindsets towards sales, my discomfort with discussing money, and my need for approval, just to name a few. Not to mention cancer and other health issues, but more on that later. When I started to change those mindsets and ultimately myself, my circumstances started to change with them. And with that change came new behaviors that would lead to outcomes that I could have only dreamed of. Today, my steady six-figure income supports my family and allowed my husband to take a 50% pay cut in order to do what he enjoys. It allows us to travel when we want to, renovate our lakeside home, get off the grid, and invest in our family's future. Wherever you are now, in your business or your sales career, know this. You are the author of your story. You decide where your luck comes from. Yes, there are parts that are hard and scary. Bravery comes when we don't hide from the challenges. My hope is that when you read and do the exercises in this book, you will know what is getting in your way of your success, how to change it, and what to do with your buyers to apply it. I invite you to lean into the fear and build your bravery. As you work through the exercises in this book, or when you have an aha moment, share it on social media with the hashtags buyer first and hashtag not about me. Tag me if you want. Show your work. Share your lessons and your wins. You've got this. Buck luck.
So good. Oh my gosh. The chat is on fire, by the way. The chat is on fire. I forgot how you're such a good storyteller, and the way you read is so natural, and it's just a delight to listen to you. And it's been a minute since I've revisited some of these stories with you, and I still remember them when you first shared the, how am I going to pay for my kids' Christmas present story. Oh my gosh, that stayed with me all this time. Thank you. That was great. That was so good. I can't wait for you to read this chat, by the way.
Oh, by the way, I have a special guest here that wants to say hi.
Who is the special guest?
I really don't want to say hi.
Is it Steve?
This is Steve.
Hi, Steve.
Everybody.
Steve's like a rock star over in here in top 3 land. We love Steve. We love a Steve story.
Yes.
Thank you.
I told him he's going to be famous. And so get in here and help me sell more books.
Oh, yeah. Well, Steve's famous in our land for sure.
Yes, he is. Thanks, honey.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, Steve. There's another Steve story too. The truck.
There is.
Did the truck story make it in?
No, I didn't include this truck story because I have another story that's very similar to that I included.
Oh, okay. Okay. I can't wait to find
But the
out.
truck story is good because that's where Steve drops the F-bomb a few times.
I love that you brought in all the data. I remember when you came into workshop, you said, sales books are either all story, sales parable, something like that, or all data, or I guess maybe you were also talking about how to, but not backing it up with anything. And you wanted to write this book that covered all those bases. And you so beautifully and expertly told us in the introduction that that's what we were about to get.
Yeah.
So I think, have you gotten some good feedback about that balance in your book?
Yeah. I mean, the thing that I really wanted was to be able to, like we get a lot of anecdotes in sales. In my experience, when I worked at this company, when I did it, this team, which is great because it gives us that starting point to observe something and then dig a little bit deeper. But most people don't dig deeper. They just take that as face value. Well, this is how we did it at my last company. And they try to apply it in every situation. And after a while, it doesn't work. And then they're like, well, I guess that, the whatever has changed. And I wanted to really include a way for people to understand that the things that I'm telling you aren't just, this is how I did it, this is how so-and-so did it, but this is what we've learned, and this is what the science tells us about why this works, so that if you know why it works, when it changes, you'll understand what you also need to change when you understand the root cause of it. So that instead of like having to get the next tip, the next trick, the next hack, it's about how do you keep in touch with and alignment with your buyers who are the ones that you need to be being guided by, essentially.
I remember you working so hard on the flow of the reader journey and understanding the issue, connecting on the issue and the pain points, understanding why it works that way, providing a solution, and then you give exactly what to do about it, which I love.
Yeah.
Exactly what to do. So many times we read books that give us the theory and they're great and they're meant to change our mindset, but then we don't know what to do. And in this book, she just lays it out. She just lays it out. And by the way, this book could have been 3 times the size. I can vouch for that.
Yeah, it's still longer than I thought it was going to be.
But it's gonna feel good in your hands.
Yeah.
I say that about 3 times because that's how much knowledge she has. That's how much knowledge and information and research and how many stories and tips and examples and scripts she has. So we're getting all of this distilled down into golden goodness. All right, so I want to ask you one more question, then we'll do an excerpt.
Okay.
How does your book help people like me who are afraid of selling, or they just don't think they have what it takes? And sometimes that comes out by saying, ugh, I hate sales. Ugh, sales is gross. Well, what's really happening underneath is I don't feel like I can sell.
Yeah.
So how does this book help us?
Well, so the thing that I want, the other biggest takeaway in this is that every single one of us is selling every single day, whether you're a kid trying to convince your parents to get you something in the grocery store, or the parent trying to convince the kid to go to bed at night, or, doing your homework, or if you're an employee that has an idea and you want resources for something, if you're hiring people, if you're asking for funding, like these are all conversations about an exchange of value. And so when people say, oh, I don't like sales, I'm not good at sales, I'm like, you've been selling your entire life. Otherwise, you wouldn't be living right now. And so like that kind of takes a little bit of that, I don't know, like foreignness away from it, I think. And it's something that we're afraid of because it's also partly putting ourselves out there. And so that fear of rejection, that need for others to see us as good, as smart, as whatever we want them to see us as, the way we think about ourselves in the exchange is what's actually getting in our way of being, collaborative with other people, which is what we actually want. We all want to be felt that we're heard and understood and listened to and collaborated with. And that counts in sales conversations even more than ever before. So this is honestly, I was with some of my clients last week at Inbound, and one of them said, yes, I got business results from this, but the thing that I didn't expect from years later is that it changed my personal relationships, my personal life, because I just became a better human who was more fully present, who didn't get overly emotional, who wasn't always seeking validation in the wrong places, that had a positive mindset versus a negative one. These are all things that make us better humans. And I believe that everything in life is selling. And so if we can be a better human, we can be a better salesperson.
Yeah. Oh man. You hit me hard with the validation in wrong places. Yeah, you hit me hard with that.
Trust me, been there.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that as something that might hinder reaching out to in a sales capacity. But anyway, this is why you have to read this, everybody. So set up the next excerpt for us, Carole.
So the next excerpt is I believe, next chapter. Let me see here. So the next excerpt, which is actually to your very question of, I don't think that I'm a salesperson. Like one of my clients on stage last week, she's like, I'm just not a salesperson. I never thought of myself as a salesperson. And so this chapter, which is chapter 1, is called You Are a Salesperson. And so it's really kind of addressing that belief that a lot of us have of like, how many people when they were a kid and asked what they wanted to be when they grew up said salesperson? Like nobody. And if you did, you were looked at weird. So that's what this excerpt is all about. All right. So chapter 1, you are a salesperson. You can't escape the fact that you are a seller. As a business owner, you are in sales whenever you try to motivate team members, convince the bank to give you a loan, or negotiate with partners. The same goes for your team members. They are in sales whenever they share their ideas or make the case for resources to implement them. It applies to the 2-year-old who never stops asking why or never gives up when they want something, just as it does for the parent trying to get them to eat their veggies or go to bed. We are all selling something every day. As a business owner, you are selling yourself and your vision of the future. And as a salesperson, well, you get it, which means you have been selling your entire life. Regardless of whether you are a business owner, entrepreneur, or a salesperson in a company, the one thing you don't want to be called is salesy. Clients say it to me all the time. I want to get more clients and customers, but I don't want to be salesy. Reconciling the image you have of yourself to include being a salesperson may feel uncomfortable at first. Somewhere in your mind, you know it's true, but as I did once, maybe you hope that you can find some way around it. When I first started my marketing agency in 2007, right after getting laid off from my corporate job at the height of the Great Recession, I didn't simply want to avoid sales. I wanted to replace the need for sales altogether. Between my childhood experiences with salespeople, more on that in a moment, and my experiences with salespeople in the corporate world, my disdain was so strong that I wanted to make them obsolete. I believed that the internet was going to make that easy. Soon, anyone would be able to buy anything online, and the pushy, slimy, sleazy salesperson was an unnecessary middleman to be eliminated. My bias was confirmed when I first started getting my client referrals from other agencies. Now, I understood early how to use Google Analytics, leverage search engine optimization, SEO, and run pay-per-click campaigns. The traditional agencies then wanted to subcontract me to their clients who were asking for these new tactics. The recession was leading to slashed budgets, and strategies like the yellow pages and direct mail had become too expensive for the returns they offered. Only 6 months after getting laid off from my corporate job, I was able to replace my lost salary and had the freedom to take my kids to school and pick them up every day. I thought I had it all figured out. I had started a business in the worst economic times, and I did it without ever having to sell anything myself. I don't know why everyone said this was so hard. I thought I was way smarter than they were. I said no to a job offer, spent my entire first consulting check, and decided I must be way smarter. Psychologists call this Mount Stupid, or the Dunning-Kruger effect. You see, the less experience we have with a subject, the more likely we are to overestimate our strengths and underestimate our weaknesses in that subject. This is due not to arrogance, but to ignorance. And it's not because we know we're lying to ourselves, we believe what we think. I believed I had it all figured out and was well on my way to financial freedom without having to make a single sales call. But not long after that, those agency partners who had contracted me to work with their clients started to reduce my scope or cut me out of their proposals altogether to keep more of the work for themselves. Suddenly, I found myself with no work, no contacts, and no savings. Now what? I hired a business coach to help me figure it out. He told me right off that I needed to do some networking, read sales books, and invest in some sales training and workshops. I hated it, but I was desperate to do whatever it took to save my dreams. I studied spin selling, solution selling, Sandler selling, question-based selling, baseline selling, referral and relationship selling, and any new sales methodology that promised me results. If sales books were weight loss programs, then I was the Oprah Winfrey of sales programs. I tried anything and everything, failed at most of it, and hated all of it. Perhaps you too have begrudgingly accepted that you need to get better at sales, and as many do, you've chased after the latest trends, hoping that any given one will be the thing that unlocks success for you. That knowing somehow which transformational words to say, what mythical step-by-step process to follow, or which magical technology to use is the key to unlocking your elusive success. We all have a sales story, and for most of us, it's not a good one. My sales story started when I was growing up in a family of small business owners in Massachusetts. My mother had her own painting business restoring historic homes. My grandfather had a sporting goods store and did freelance welding work on the side. Many of the universities around Boston feature his wrought iron welding. My father did freelance auto body work and created the most beautiful artwork on everything from Volkswagen vans to antique Corvettes. But it was my father's mother, Grandma Mahoney, who was my first sales role model. In the mid-1970s, she ran one of our first women-owned real estate agencies in my home state. Growing up, my sister and I would spend part of our summer vacation with her every year. Now, if you know real estate, you know that summer is a busy time for realtors, trying to get listings, holding open houses, going to networking events, and hosting lots of private showings. Grandma Mahoney brought us to all of it. First, we'd go to the salon to get our hair done, then to the mall for new dresses, and then to the event where we had to abide by strict rules about what to do and say. Don't eat too many donuts. By the time I was 10, I knew how to introduce myself at networking events, and by 12, she had me balancing the books. Instead of playing princess dress up, I was playing secretary with a phone and business cards. Oh, the business cards. They were everywhere. In Grandma's wallet, purse, makeup bag, mailbox, and bread box. She would use them for luggage tags and gift tags, and in every restaurant we went to, she would leave them on with the check, on the bulletin boards, and on tables, even when guests were still having dinner. And every time she saw someone she knew, she would start asking sensitive questions that made me want to disappear on the spot from embarrassment. "Oh, hello, dear," Grandma would say. You've been busy. Are you pregnant? When you do, you are going to need some more room. And not just in the waistline. I just listed this beautiful house over on the harbor with gorgeous views of the water, plenty of room for you to park all your cars. Did hubby get the raise? What's his annual salary now? I was mortified. Who asked those kinds of questions? She was always on. And though the rest of my family would tease Grandma for her salesy ways, it seemed like she got what she wanted exactly how she wanted it. But it was the used car salesman that my mother started dating after my father passed away who sealed my perception of sales and salespeople. My mother met Jim when I was about 5 years old. When she moved to Maine, he came with us and got a job at a used car sales lot where we rented a cabin in the woods and built a house near town. He promised my mom that he would take care of my sister and me while she worked 2 jobs to pay the bills. During the day, Jim would spend a few hours at the dealership, sometimes with my sister and me as we waited in the office. All day long, I overheard conversations between Jim and his customers. When people came in to look at a specific car that was advertised, Jim steered them towards other cars, saying, "That one was sold this morning." Later, Jim and his boss would laugh because the ad was fake and the car it advertised didn't exist. When he wasn't pulling the bait and switch, Jim employed other common used car sales tactics with his buyers. There was the "someone else was looking at that car this morning, it'll be gone by the afternoon" strategy to create urgency. Of course, no one else had been looking at the car. The buyer didn't know that, though. Then there was the famous "let me go talk to my manager." Oh, he did go talk to the manager, but not about what they could do for the buyer. They'd joke about how long they'd have to wait before the buyer gave in to their price. But I will never forget the day that a customer came in yelling and screaming that everyone at the dealership was a bunch of crooks. He had bought a car for his son and found out that the frame of the car was rotten. It wasn't road safe. Jim's response? "The bill of sale says sold as is." Jim didn't care one bit about his customers, their safety, or how his schemes might affect them. He simply wanted the sale. Despite all these sleazy tactics, Jim didn't make a lot of money. His reputation soon spread through the small town we lived in. When the phone rang at the house, Jim had me answer it, and if it was for him, I'd have to tell the caller that he wasn't home because he knew it was a bill collector or someone else he had conned. When Jim wasn't working, if you can call it that, he spent most evenings taking us to his favorite bar when we were barely counter height. His slimy ways were not limited to selling cars. He would pick a bar in town, run a tab up, and when it came time to pay, he would take off and find another bar to call his favorite and run up another tab. To Jim, taking care of us meant making sure that we knew how to cook, clean, and take care of a man, in every sense of the phrase. He knew best, he was never wrong, and it was always about what he wanted. And he would get what he wanted, no matter what he had to do or say. It was these experiences that shaped the foundation of my mindset towards sales. Spending time with nosy Grandma Mahoney was exciting and uncomfortable at the same time. Spending time with pushy, slimy, sleazy used car salesman Jim was confusing and unsafe. Whenever I heard a sales pitch, or had to deal with a salesperson, or had to engage in a sales conversation myself, this is what I thought of. I believed that to be good at sales, you had to be pushy, slimy, and sleazy. I wanted nothing to do with it. I avoided sales at all costs, and that cost was high. I wanted to get more customers or clients for my business, but I struggled to find the time, believed I needed to have the perfect messaging, and that it wasn't that I just hadn't found the right magic process or pricing that's going to guarantee my success. What I didn't realize was that the thing that was really standing in my way was my mindset towards sales and what it was all about. I learned the hard way that you can change your mind. When I evaluated my mindset, I began to understand that selling isn't something we do to others, it is something we do with them. The end-ish.
Oh my gosh. You're so expertly weaving story in with message. It's just a masterclass. It's a masterclass. I love you bringing those stories to life. Love,
Yeah.
love, love. And again, the chat was jumping.
I can see like there's 80 comments so far, so I can't wait
Yeah.
to read them.
Oh yeah, you're gonna have a blast because what's fun is you can see what people are saying the same thing. You can know what's really hitting home.
Yeah.
For the first time ever in Monday Night Reading history, we got a question in advance.
Ooh.
we got an email saying, I'm coming to the reading and I want to ask Carole this question. So there, it's Donna, and Donna says that I can go ahead and read it. Is that, do you still want me to do that, Donna? Or do you want to read it?
Yeah, I didn't know how long I'd be here, so I can actually ask Carole the question if that's
Awesome.
great.
Please ask. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, first,
Donna.
Carole, thank you so much for having this tonight. It was so inspiring to see your story in your book. I can't wait to get it. It's right up my alley. I'm an entrepreneur and a small business owner, so thank you. Very inspirational. So my question is, in our modern world, often we don't engage one-on-one or face-to-face with buyers. Prior to selling through sales platforms like Etsy or Shopify.
Mhm.
So as an entrepreneur, providing good customer service is key, but when doing online sales, I found a difficult challenge is having your products be found amongst the mass products in your niche. So putting aside keywords, platform algorithms, SEO, and all that, what are some tips you might have for collaborating with customers to boost online sales and drive repeat online sales?
So there's the first thing that I would have in mind is like, if I'm not sure, like, what are some of the things that you're creating on Etsy, for example?
So I have a design store, creating like apparel products for people who love nature. I also have a lot of online courses that I do as well, video courses, and then I do resume writing, and I have social media clients as well. So it's a whole bunch of things in the air.
Okay. Are these products and services that you're creating?
Yes.
Okay. So then you always have that opportunity to ask people, like, say after they've purchased something, ask them, what made them decide to purchase this? What are some of the other things that they've tried? If, say, for example, they're hiking pants. I'm going to just use my husband as an example because he's just so easy. And so my husband is very tall. He has very long legs. When I get him to go outside with me, he really enjoys it. But finding the right hiking pants for him that are loose enough and breathe and have pockets in them and are sturdy and are durable are really hard for him to find. And so if there's a way that you can say, when someone has come and checked out a product or they bought a product, that you can ask them, what prompted your interest in this? How would you plan on using this? What are you hoping this is going to do for you or set up for you, or some things like that? And then taking their feedback and say, I'm going to update the design, or, this might be a good recommendation for you if this is something that you're looking for. It's really like very customer service and how can you be helpful for them, but taking their input and applying it to how you do your next round of designs or offerings.
Yeah, I like that, kind of drilling down deeper into connecting with them instead of just doing the basic follow-ups and all of that. So that's great.
Yeah. So when you order the book, there's a link inside of the book for the workbook. And in that, there's actually 2 infographics these are sets of questions that you can ask along the path of someone's buying journey to help you dig in deeper into some of those questions. And then the second infographic is for what are the mindsets that might get in your way of doing that? And what are some small things that you can do every day to get more comfortable in asking those kinds of deeper questions?
Okay, that's great. So a little bit getting outside your comfort zone to get into a new comfort zone, right?
Yes.
With
Yes.
this. So I like that. Thank you.
You're welcome. And that's such a great point too that Donna makes, is that, and that was one of the things that I really hope that this book would do for people, is change is hard when we try to do it in big chunks. And so if you can find small little ways by asking 1 or 2 additional questions, or, stretching outside of your comfort zone and reaching out to someone directly, then those are all of the things that you're kind of exposing yourself to your fear until you eventually overcome it. But then also at the same time, you learn things as you go and you make the change easier by making it small.
Awesome. That was and that's a good lead in. Laura's put up ways that you can connect with Carole in the chat and get a copy of her book. But I also want to add one that Carole, you have something called the Buyer First Group.
Yeah. So one of the things that I talk about in the book that helped me and has helped my clients as well is that when you have other people that are going through this process with you, right? Like you do this in your workshops, AJ, when writers are getting together every day and having that community, it's because we're pushing ourselves outside of our comfort zones. And so having other people that are cheering us on, that are, commiserating with us because they're going through the same thing themselves, so you don't feel so alone doing it. when you're a business owner, it's isolating enough. But then when you're a business owner who has to sell, the ability for our mind to turn against itself is strong. And so having other people around you to be in a support group, to be accountable to, that's going to help you to make these behavior changes. So I've started to put together some small group coaching sessions where I can really match people up and kind of coach them through this process so they can apply the techniques to their particular situation like Donna had.
Awesome. So I want to ask you a couple questions I ask all the authors on Monday Night Reading. And the first is, what is the change that you want to see in the world through this book?
The change that I want to see is that the buyer remorse is no more, that no one regrets a purchase decision that they made because they felt that they got conned or didn't get told the whole truth or weren't fully listened to. And I know it's a big ask because this is the way that the world works, but I feel that sales is a noble profession because we connect problems and solutions together. And if we can do that in a way that is buyer first, we can make the world a better place. And I think secondarily to that is that I want people to feel comfortable having collaborative conversations with people that are around an exchange of value. Like sales, the definition of it is an exchange of value. And that's why we get all in our heads about it, is because what's value and how do I determine value of myself? And so I want people to feel more comfortable and confident in their sales conversations, both in their own value and the value that they bring, but also in being able to collaborate with more people, because I think that's how we come up with better solutions to begin with. I know that's what the research says.
You're always backing it up with research. I think if we all thought differently about sales, when you just that major reframe, sales is a noble profession, hardly anyone thinks that.
No.
And think about what you'll be able to do to shift that and what a difference you'll make for people. And my second question that I always ask authors up for Monday Night Reading, what has been surprising about your author journey?
How much it changed me. I mean, I know that you had said that, a book transforms you, but I was like, yeah, okay, sure. Like I'm always going through changes, but I really didn't understand the deep rooted change that was going to happen in me. I mean, talk about overcoming your need for approval. Like there was one point during my journey where I had a little bit of a panic attack when I realized how personal of the stories that I was sharing, that I was like, okay, we're just hitting send. Like, I think it was the day that I sent the first draft to the publisher that I was like, oh my God, am I really putting this out in the world? And then I was like, forgive my French, but fuck it. Like, like I've got nothing to lose at this point. And maybe it's just that the age that I'm in my, mid 40s, that I just don't really care as much what people think anymore. But I think also part of it is just being, this is who I am. And if I'm comfortable with that, that's fine. There's going to be some people out there that won't be. That's okay. I'm not everybody's slice of pie.
Yeah. Well, you were vulnerable, and those stories they resonate. They stay with you. And that's the power of being vulnerable for readers. So, before we do this final excerpt, I do want to just pause for a moment and just tell everyone that Monday Night Reading, the next Monday Night Reading is on, I've got to get is on October 2nd, and you can register Laura will put the link in the chat, and that Ellen Tafe is up reading from her book, The Mirrored Door. Ellen's actually here tonight to support Carole, and our authors are so lovely to each other, supporting each other through everything. So you can register for that event. And for anybody who's interested, we have this other big free thing we do twice a year, which is Writing Sprint Marathon. And you do have to register. It's totally free. It's a full day of writing in community. We usually have quite a few people, sometimes a couple hundred people. It's on, and this is by accident, 11/11 this year. And by the way, if you already wrote your book, Ellen, Carole, you can still come, because the writing doesn't quit. You still have to keep writing other stuff to support the book. So if you'd like to register for that, you can do so. The link's in the chat. So Carole, please set up this next excerpt.
So this is the excerpt that was going to be chapter 1 and ended up being chapter 9 after going through Writing Retreat with AJ. And she basically took my index cards and flipped them on their head. But I chose this excerpt because I was trying to decide, do I want this last one to be something really tactical? Or do I want something that's going to give them like a first step to take? And actually, Donna asked such a perfect question. I feel like I give you something tactical already. So I'm going to go with this one. And this one is, how do you get started in this process? How do you start changing your mindset towards sales so that you can adopt different behaviors? And when this chapter is really about, like, if you were to look at my LinkedIn profile, you see I wrote once upon a time about taking a cognitive behavioral approach to sales performance. And that's kind of what this book is for, is how a cognitive behavioral approach means changing a negative mindset towards something so that you can adopt a new behavior. So this chapter is called Set Your Goals, Not Someone Else's. And this is a chapter kind of that I take with all of my clients. This is the very first step that I take with them. And you mentioned the buyer first group. This is the very first step that we would do in the group together anyway. And I thought that this would be something great to leave everyone with, to give them something to think about throughout the week, because this is definitely something you can start doing now. Okay. So chapter 9, set your goals, not someone else's. Earlier, I shared with you in the book that I struggled with weight for most of my life. The first memory I have about being overweight was realizing that when most of my relatives talked about me and my sister, I was the smart one, she was the pretty one. But the real stinger was cheerleading tryouts. 9-year-old me thought jumping around, yelling, and dancing with pom-poms would be so much fun. Oh gosh, pom-poms, that was really all I wanted, was the pom-poms. This is what I focused on during one summer vacation as I sat in a middle school gym that smelled of moldy shoes. I learned how to skip Sept, sing song, chant loudly, and do a split. I watched in awe as the experienced varsity girls with their perfect ribbon ponytails and their matching socks went through complicated routines without a mistake or a stumble. I wanted to be them. I wanted to look like them, act like them, and yes, to smell like them. After a week of nerves, sweat, and a few awkward falls, it was audition day. I've got this. I can do this. Just have fun, right? I repeated this mantra to myself as I sat in the hallway outside of the gym, waiting for my pod to go in for their tryouts. I was nauseous. This didn't feel like fun at all. Why was I doing this again? When our turn was called, the 5 of us went into the gym and set out in a line. Mrs. G, the head coach, checked her list, called out our names, and asked for the first routine. With sweaty palms, I panicked. What was the first move again? I took the first step and muscle memory took over. I didn't forget anything, didn't fall, and was loud and clear. Although I was taller and bigger than the other girls, I kept in step with them. Phew. They were only going to take 6 girls out of the 24 who were trying out, and I had never done this before, but still, I was sure I had made the cut. After every pod had gone in and executed their tryout, we were called back. One by one, Miss G called out the 6 chosen names, and mine wasn't one of them. I was disappointed, but not ready to give up yet. Maybe I could try again later. When all the squealing stopped and people started heading out to the parking lot, I followed Miss G out and asked, what did I do wrong? What should I work on? Oh, nothing, honey. Just come back next year when you lose that baby fat. What baby fat? I would never be one of those pretty girls with their perfect ponytails. As psychologically damaging as that was, I understand now that I had set my goal based on my view of others, and so I was comparing myself to that. If I could be that or look like that, I would be happier. If you could get 10 more clients in or just be more like, insert your comparison of the day here, then you'll feel more successful and things will get easier, right? Like my client Mauricio, who wanted to get off his performance plan and hit over his quota to get into management role. That was what everyone else was doing after all. I spent the better part of my adolescent and early adult years looking in the mirror, wishing I was someone else. Everywhere I turned, I saw people I could compare myself to, and I always found myself lacking. Social media is a feeding ground for our inner critics. Comparison is the death of confidence. I tried weight loss programs, shake diets that tasted like cake batter, meal plans with exact measurements and specific foods, and exercise plans. Sometimes the weight came off, but nothing kept it off, and I never made it to my goal of becoming a size 8. How many goal-setting planners and programs have you been through? How many New Year's Eve resolutions have you made but not stuck with? I find that when I talk about goal setting with my clients, I either get the same eye roll you did earlier, this is a waste of time, can we just get started and do what we need to do, or the eagerness of a kid in a candy store. If I dig into my why and purpose, everything will fall into line for me because I have put my intention out into the universe. Wah! Only then to watch them experience the same kind of crash you see when a kid comes down from their sugar high. Does this mean goal setting doesn't work at all, that we shouldn't bother? Far from it. Yeah, it matters. I analyzed the data from Objective Management Group, again, and it showed that the salespeople with personally meaningful goals are 298% more likely to reach elite level performance than those without. The analysis also revealed that salespeople with goals have 32% greater abilities than those who don't have them. Abilities such as active listening and asking good, targeted questions, focusing on value over price, and negotiating. Everything you have read about in this book. When we have personally meaningful goals, we learn more and perform better. Personally meaningful goals that are written, shared, and regularly reported on help you to develop the keystone habits necessary to make changes in your sales mindsets, behaviors, and results. So why did I leave this topic for the end of the book? Why didn't we start here? My editors asked me the same question too. Would you have believed me at the start of this book if I had told you that your biggest dreams were possible? That somehow this time will be different? Only 45% of professional sellers have personally meaningful goals that are written down and tracked for progress. But why? If setting goals is so important to success, why don't we do it? Allow me again to once again call out the elephant in the room by addressing some of the deep psychological reasons we procrastinate goal setting or fail to reach the goals we set. Do you remember my client, Michael Douglas, from chapter 4? Michael originally came to me because he wanted to make two or three more sales a year. He felt that was doable. After 2 months of coaching, he started to see small, quick wins. The nature of his conversations changed, and he began meeting with higher level executives. After 6 months of coaching, he sold more than he had in his previous 3 years at the company. He never thought it was possible, and if someone had told him this would happen, he would have laughed in their face. Now, I know that anything is possible, he told me. After Michael shared this with me, I couldn't shake one question. How does our outlook, our belief about the future, impact our mindset towards goal setting and learning? If you think back to the motivational myths in the previous chapter, you'll recall that I once had a hard time believing into the put it out there way of thinking. When most people accused me of being too negative, I shot back that I was a realist who prepared for the worst because I hate surprises or disappointment. That seemed like the smart thing to do to be more productive and improve my current circumstances. But according to Sean Anker, the author of The Happiness Advantage, over 200 scientific studies prove that happiness raises nearly every outcome of our lives, from health and quality of life to productivity, and you guessed it, sales. My own analysis of the OMG data about the impact of our outlook on our ability to learn and grow aligned with Anker's research. Sellers with a strong outlook are 41% more motivated, have 25% more desire for success, and are 45% more committed to doing whatever it takes to reach their goals. They also have a 51% higher figure it out factor, which is a measure of how quickly we learn, and are 29% more likely to have a system to track their progress. A negative outlook dampens your motivation, desire, commitment, and ability to learn quickly. More than that, it causes you to think small. Functional MRI findings published in 2007, which I'm not going to butcher their names right now, of New York University and the Wellcome Center for Human Neuroimaging at the University College London show that optimism activates the amygdala and a part of our brain called the rosterior anterior cingulated cortex. This helps us downplay negative emotions and responses and drives us to go after higher stake goals. The study also showed that an optimistic outlook enables us to learn and understand more easily and helps us stay focused on near-term events and successes. As Michael's outlook on the future started to change with quick wins, he began to believe that bigger things were possible. A negative outlook is kryptonite to almost anything we are trying to accomplish. In addition to its impact on our level of motivation, desire, and commitment, its dampening effect on bravery, grit, curiosity, and empathy means you may be bailing out in tough situations or becoming more emotional than normal. And those tough situations can include anything that seems risky. For example, prospecting. Nobody wants to talk to me. Qualifying. The reason they gave isn't enough for them to want to change the status quo. Setting goals. I have to be realistic. What if I fail? Managing your time. I have no control over that. Too many people need me. Or trying to learn or unlearn a skill or habit. Why bother? AI is going to replace it. If you are struggling with sales and you often say things like, why me? I never seem to catch a break, or of course it fell apart. I knew that would happen. It might be time to change your outlook and reframe how you see the future. But how? I realized as I was writing this chapter that there was never a point where either Michael or I simply decided to change our outlook. Instead, it happened as we found small examples of success. These quick wins boosted our confidence in our ability to make the changes and opened us up to what was possible in the future. The end.
We're just riveted. You could have just kept, just keep going, We were all riveted. I gotta say, the way that you rock reader journey is so fan-freaking-tastic. This is a triumph, Carole Mahoney. This is a triumph. We are so proud of you here at Workshop, and we'll do anything to support and promote this book. I hope you have been convinced that this is not just a book that you need, but a book that other people need. So if somebody is struggling in this department, you know exactly what to do. And you know this book will absolutely and truly help them. You mastered this. You had a vision and you executed. And I am so proud of you, Carole. So proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm already thinking about the next one.
Good. We love that. We love that. Book 2, let's rock and roll. Keep it going. Authorship is not just one book. It's an identity, everybody. It's an identity. Carole, I can't wait to hear how all your readers feel about this book. I can't wait to hear their success stories. And congrats. As we say in Workshop, it's time for cake. Time for cake.
I didn't have cake, but I've had cookies and so forth. So
it's cake is whatever you decide you want it to
okay,
be.
cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you all for showing up for Carole. Please write reviews. Please write reviews. We'll see you at the next Monday night. Have a great night, everybody.